Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we have a good show for you today. First topic we're going over is the White Sox finally snapping their 21-game losing streak. After that, we'll be going over Grayson Rodriguez and his injury for the Orioles. The Melby's Plants have a game at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Tyler Fitzgerald and his breakout season for the San Francisco Giants, and some other news around the league. But before we do all that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get written in the air. Please use the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, as I said, the first topic is going to be about what else other than the White Sox finally winning a baseball game. It's been 21 games since the White Sox have won a game, probably nearly a month in real-time span, because of the breaks and all that stuff. So if you're a White Sox fan, it's been a long, long time since you've been able to celebrate a White Sox victory, and you finally got that. And, man, wow. I mean, this White Sox team is a new level of bad, and they have finally snapped their 21-game losing streak. I mean, it's almost like unbelievable to think about. Losing 21 straight games. Like, that's a long, long time. That's 3 weeks of baseball play. 3 full weeks of just playing baseball games and losing. I mean, I could never understand how, like humiliating that is for a player on that team. I mean, I was on some bad Little League teams when I grew up, but I don't think I ever was close to losing 21 straight games. I mean, man, that is really, really bad. But thankfully, they won. Of course, it had to be against also one of the worst teams in baseball. Probably the others talked about worst AL team, the Oakland A's. So they did end up winning 5-1 yesterday. You had scoring from Andrew Benintendi and Andrew Vaughn, as well as Lenyon Sosa, to end up making the game 5-1 and winning that game. You had Jonathan Canyon on the mound, who's actually one of your solid MLB players. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits and a run. Really solid line there against a White Sox A's team that doesn't have a horrible offense. I mean, they do have Brent Rooker in the middle of it. Lawrence Butler's there as well, so it's not a horrible A's offense. So nice, solid job by him there. But yeah, just thankfully the White Sox won a game. I mean, I was really getting worried that they wouldn't win a game the entire season. I was kind of rooting for it as well as a baseball fan. I mean, it would be kind of cool to see a team lose 900 million games in a row would be pretty fun. So, I mean, the fact that the White Sox lost 21 straight games, though, again, is just inconceivable to me. And, again, I watched some bad Mets teams growing up. I did. But 21 straight games is something that just does not even register in my mind. So, I think a lot of questions we have to ask about the White Sox is, are they the worst team ever? I think that's what a lot of people are going to be asking right now. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to be wondering as well. Now, I'm going to say I don't think they are, but I'm also going to try to compare them to some other really, really bad teams as well. I mean, looking at the White Sox right now, they are, of course, dead last in the AL Central. They are 40 and a half games out of first place, so that's bad. They are they're over 20 games behind the Tigers for even the next best place in the AL Central, which, again, really, really bad. And they're 1-9 in their last 10, of course. Obviously, they lost 21 straight. So they are also negative 247 for a run differential this entire year, which is bad, really, really bad. Losing negative run differential of negative 247. It's not the greatest you want to be at. So definitely not going great for the White Sox, what I'm trying to get at. But, I mean, their record right now is 28-88. They have a winning percentage of .241, which is just insane to think about. I mean, the next closest team with the winning percentage is the Marlins, who at least have .368. I mean, that's still over 100 winning percentage above them. So obviously the White Sox, I would say, are in a new tier of bad, especially for this year. But, when you think about the worst teams in baseball history, I think you have to go back, first of all, of course, to the first-year New York Mets, 1962, who were easily the worst team in baseball history ever. I think the White Sox are getting into that conversation, but I think the Mets will always hold that record. I also look at the later 2010s Orioles teams, those teams that were blatantly tanking once Manny Machado left, but those teams are really, really awful. But also, you look at them now, I mean, it's kind of paid off considering the Orioles were a dynasty in the making, I believe. So They're fantastic. So I think when you're thinking of how bad this White Sox team really is, you have to think about those teams in comparison as well, how bad those teams were with this White Sox team. So 21 straight games, man, that's bad. Just really, really bad. And the thing that's crazy about the White Sox also is that their MLB team isn't disastrous. Like, they still have some really good players. I mean, you have Garrett Crochet, who was an ace-level pitcher at the age of 25, 26. He pitches every fifth day. You have Luis Robert, a great center fielder out there. I mean, Andrew Vaughn isn't a bad first baseman. Andrew Benintendi has not lived up to his contract, and he's been bad, but he's not horrible. Like, the thing is, the White Sox don't have such horrible players. They actually have a good amount of stars in this team for a team that is on pace to win like 40 games. So it's really incredible just watching how bad everyone else is around them. I mean, one person we want to look at is Martin Maldonado. They signed him to a 2-year contract, DFA'd him in June, and he played like 40 games for the White Sox and had negative 1.5 WAR. That's really hard to do, considering he didn't even play all that much. So, I mean, this White Sox team is a new level of bad. And again, the kind of crazy part is, again, they have stars. They have Luis Robert. They have Garrett Crochet. Like, it's kind of crazy just how bad everyone else is around. So they're going to be really interesting to watch for the rest of the year. I, for one, am very, very excited to see how many wins they actually do get, because I don't think it's going to be that many. And, I think it's going to be around 35 to 40. It's crazy to say 35 because that's saying they'll only win 7 games the rest of the year. But is that even crazy to say with this White Sox team? So it's going to be a very interesting situation to watch for the rest of the year, a very interesting team to watch for the rest of the year, and yeah, just going to be something is what we're going to say. Now, I know a lot of people are focusing on kind of the gloom and doom with the White Sox, as they probably should, considering how bad they are. But what I want to focus on a lot is the future of the White Sox. I mean, they're this bad, and that's for a reason, yes. But, when you are this bad for so long, eventually you are going to end up becoming better. Now, the kind of crazy part is they can't even get the first overall pick in this year's draft because of some rules with MLB. Like, I don't really know how it works, but the Nationals couldn't get it last year as well after picking Dylan Cruz second overall. And they, of course, fell down to the number 10 overall pick. And I think that's what's going to happen with the White Sox here. I don't know why they can't get the first overall pick. I'm not sure exactly of the reason, but also them being this bad again, it doesn't really have that many draft implications as well. So that's also a crazy part of this. I mean, they're doing this all kind of for nothing. They're just being bad for the love of the game, it seems like. So, I mean, you look at this White Sox team again, they do have some good complementary pieces. I mean, you have Garrett Crochet, who is one of the most asked about players at the entire trade deadline, and he, of course, didn't go, so you still have him on your team. He's going to be making starts for every fifth day for a little while now. Luis Robert is a fantastic center fielder. So you still have these 2 star players. You have some pieces in the bullpen that aren't exactly awful. So it's just interesting to see how bad the players around them are. But looking at the future of this White Sox team, I mean, first of all, you look at their rotation. I mean, let's say you keep Garrett Crochet. Probably not going to happen, but you have him. You have Drew Thorpe, who's going to be a franchise mainstay for the future, I believe. A really good pitching prospect. Jonathan Cannon's shown some nice stuff. Kai Bush, that's some starting pitchers right there. And even if you do trade Garrett Crochet, which you probably will, you're going to get a franchise-changing prospect haul back for him. So you're also getting great guys back for him as well. So it's not exactly like you're just trading him and he's off the team for nothing. Hitting prospects, you have Colson Montgomery coming up soon. Edward Cuero coming up soon. Noah Schultz, another great starting pitching prospect, born and raised Chicago as well. Andrew Vaughn hasn't been that bad this year. Miguel Vargas, who you just got from the Dodgers as the main part of the Eric Fetty trade. I think he's going to be really solid. So, Yohan Moncada, maybe he fixes himself and becomes a good player for once. Don't think that's going to happen, but I've seen crazier things end up happening. Dominic Fletcher, I don't think is that bad. So, the thing about the White Sox is they do have some pieces. They do have some guys that you can look at and say, you know what, they're going to be here for the long haul. They're going to be part of our future. Also, I didn't even mention the 5th overall pick from this year, Hagen Smith, they drafted, of course. So there are some pieces here with this White Sox team that you can end up saying, these are going to be big parts of our team. These are guys that we can actually build around. And they're up in the major leagues as well, and some of them have been up. It's just, the thing is, the players around them have been so bad that it's insane. I mean, you had some good players at the deadline you traded. You had Tommy Pham, who was pretty solid. Eric Fetty as well, of course. Michael Kopech, fine relief pitcher. So the fact that you were as bad as you were with all these solid kind of players is really insane to me. But good job for the White Sox. Finally broke this losing streak. 21 straight games. Honestly incredible. I mean, there's people going around on social media talking about how bad they felt for Miguel Vargas, and I agree, because Miguel Vargas just went from the Dodgers to the White Sox, the best team in baseball to the literal worst team in baseball. So, man, that's just what it's like being a baseball player, huh? But, man, I feel bad for him. He's getting a real shock. But 21 straight losses, really incredible. Moving into our second segment here, which is going to be talking about Grayson Rodriguez and his injury for the Baltimore Orioles, going over how it is going to affect the Orioles and the rotation and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, going over that, and we'll be seeing you after the break. So, thanks, and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment for today, which is going to be talking about Grayson Rodriguez and his injury for the Baltimore Orioles. But before that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please hit the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so our second segment is, of course, going to be talking about Grayson Rodriguez and his injury for the Baltimore Orioles. This is a really big story from last night. Warming up for his game, of course, for the Orioles. About 5 minutes before, Grayson Rodriguez felt something, I guess, in his body and called over the trainers. And you could see him mouthing the words on the Orioles broadcast, "I don't feel right." And 5 minutes before the game, he was scratched. Now, that's never good. 5 minutes before the game, he was scratched. That's not something you really want to see. He was today, of course, placed on the injured list with a right lat / teres discomfort. So kind of his lat, kind of armpit area, that's what the teres is. So obviously it's not an elbow injury or an arm injury. That's pretty good, but still having an injury at this time of the year for a player as important to the Orioles' success as Grayson Rodriguez is something that really is unfortunate and something that is bad for this Orioles team. Now, Rodriguez has been an absolute mammoth for this Orioles team this year. I mean, really has broken out for them, become a frontline starting pitcher. Was in their farm system for a long time, was a top-rated pitching prospect, but a lot of people, including myself, really never thought that he would be able to make the jump and become a great starting pitcher as he has. I always loved his velocity. I always loved the break in his pitches, but like most young pitchers who have great velocity, great break in their pitches, he didn't have much control. So I really never thought that he would be able to develop that as much as he has, but he's been fantastic this year. I mean, he has a 3.86 ERA, which in the AL East is fantastic. 20 games started, really hasn't missed a start all year. 116.2 innings pitched. 130 strikeouts as well, which is already more than last year. A K per 9 of 10.03. A walk per 9 of 2.78, which is down from last year, which is great. K percentage is at 26.5, which is also great. Walk percentage is significantly down from last year as well. So has really done a great job. His expected ERA, his FIP, all that kind of stuff, Sierra, they really don't tell the tale for much regression as well. It kind of seems like this is just who he is, and he's just a great pitcher. Of course, you added in Corbin Burnes at the start of the offseason as well, so adding in Burnes to this rotation that already now has a breakout candidate in Grayson Rodriguez was a really great job, and the rotation has become one of their biggest strengths. The problem is now the injuries with their rotation, like a lot of teams have faced this entire year. I mean, not only you've had Grayson Rodriguez, but before him you had Kyle Bradish go down, who was your number 2 starter, John Means, Tyler Wells, all for the season. Kyle Bradish was the most significant one here, as he was your number 2 starter all of last year. Number 1 starter, I should say, actually, for last year. Was having a fantastic season this year, had a fantastic season last year, and the fact that he did go down with Tommy John not only affects you this year, but for next year as well. So, with Rodriguez out now, your rotation is going to look something like Corbin Burnes, Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers, Dean Kramer, and Keegan Aiken. That's not horrible, but it's a pretty far cry from where you once were at this rotation. I mean, Rodriguez now being out for 15 days, I do think is really significant. The good thing is, though, again, it's not an elbow injury, it's not an arm injury, so it doesn't seem like he's going to be spending much time on the IL after the 15 days. I would think it's going to be around 3 weeks to a month, which is bad. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, it's nothing, it's fine. Every pitcher deals with it. No, it's bad. But the fact is, when you're a pitcher, you are just going to have injuries, and you kind of have to deal with these things. And the fact that it doesn't look like it's going to affect him in the playoffs and in the long term as well is something that is really, really good for this Orioles team. When he is healthy, though, I mean, Manis rotation going to be fantastic. You're going to have Burnes, Rodriguez, you're going to have Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers, and then probably Dean Kramer as the 5. I mean, if you were fully healthy this year, you could have a rotation of Corbin Burnes, Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, Zach Eflin, and Trevor Rogers. That would be absolutely incredible. So I really like what the Orioles are building here, and I really like the rotation. Now, again, having this Rodriguez injury is a setback to this team. Definitely 100%. That's obviously true. But I think the depth they have right now is really good, and getting through this with a month is fine. Now, if it is significant after that in the playoffs, I think that's worse. Because your number 2 starter is really going to be Zach Eflin, who's fine, but after that, you're going to have to rely on Keegan Aiken and Trevor Rogers to make significant starts in the playoffs, which is fine, but they aren't exactly big-time guys that you really want to fully rely on. So, with this Orioles team, I'm really hoping that Grayson Rodriguez can get healthy, can get much better, and it's not too significant of an injury where it's going to affect him for the rest of the year. I think that Rodriguez has been one of the biggest breakout candidates in all baseball this year, has been an absolutely fantastic player, and I'm really hoping that he can become the ace-level pitcher that the Orioles want and stay healthy. Again, very good news that it's not his arm, not his elbow, but again, having any kind of injury right now is something that you are going to have to worry about, and it's something that you are going to have to monitor for the rest of the year. Now, going over this Orioles rotation, I mean, man, did they really just overhaul this at the deadline. I really love what they did. I know they got a lot of flack for not going all in at the deadline. I mean, they could have probably gotten a guy like Tarek Skubal at the deadline, but was he really ever going to be available? I don't think so. And, I personally would have put up all the prospects for Skubal. I think a Skubal, Burnes, Rodriguez, Eflin, Rogers rotation probably would have made the Orioles immediate World Series favorites. I probably would have given them a trophy the next day if they got Skubal. But, I don't think he was really ever available, so I can't really fault them for not getting someone like that. I can't really fault them for getting, maybe a better player in Jack Flaherty because, of course, he has history in Baltimore. He didn't do great there last year, so I think it makes a lot of sense for the Orioles not really want to go down that path again. So, looking at it then, they got still a really good starting pitcher. They got Zach Eflin. And not only is Zach Eflin a great starting pitcher, he didn't cost anything too significant with prospects. He has played in the playoffs multiple times in his career with both the Rays and the Phillies. And also, he's under control for next year. So I love that Eflin move. I enjoyed the Trevor Rogers move for you guys. Of course, we got to say it every time we bring up Trevor Rogers, but they gave an insane amount for him. Stowers and Norby was an insane amount, but also both were kind of excess goods on such a great team. I probably would have held out their value for something bigger, but obviously they like Trevor Rogers. Obviously they see something in him, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does develop as a pitcher for the Orioles long term. When you're looking at him, I don't really think that he's someone you look at and determine the trade if it's a win or a loss by this year. You look 2 or 3 years in the future and see how he's pitching with this Orioles team, because that was really a move for the future, not just this year as well. Of course, he is going to help you this year in the playoffs. I'm sure he'll be your number 4 starter, but overall, it's really more of a move for the future for this Orioles team. So, yeah, I still love this Orioles team. I still love the rotation they have. There are some question marks about them, including their bullpen. Having Craig Kimbrell as the closer for you guys isn't great. He's been a little shaky recently, and I'm just not sure how much I trust him. But he is a veteran. He knows how to get it done at some points. I would probably move Yennier Cano there, but that's just me. I like the bullpen upgrades you got at the deadline as well, including Sir Anthony Dominguez. Gregory Soto hasn't done the best with you guys so far, giving up 8 earned runs in 1 inning. But still, I like what he's able to bring. I like the arm talent he has, so I don't think it was a horrible move. So, yeah, I think this Orioles team is going to be one of the most fascinating to watch the rest of the year. Their battle with the Yankees to win the AL East is going to be really, really interesting, and I think that it's going to be one of the bigger storylines of this entire year, and just be able to see how this ends up is going to be really, really fun to watch as a baseball fan. I'm very excited to see it, and I'm very, very interested to see just overall what is going to be happening with this Orioles team, this Orioles rotation, and just this Orioles team in the future as well. I mean, I really think that this Orioles team is a dynasty in the making. With the amount of young, incredible talent they have is just honestly insane. They have even more guys coming up as well. Heston Kjerstad hasn't gotten a full share yet. Samuel Basallo hasn't gotten a full share yet. So once those guys come up, man, is this Orioles team going to be fantastic. And wow, the young talent they're gonna have is just going to be absolutely monstrous. So that is it for my second segment here, going over Grayson Rodriguez and his injury for this Orioles team. Moving into our third segment here, which is going to be talking about the Bristol Motor Speedway game. It was announced yesterday that OMB plans to have a game at the famous Bristol Motor Speedway for NASCAR for next year. So I'll be going over that and give my thoughts on it. And yeah, we talk about it, and I'll see you after the break. So thanks and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about MLB planning to have a game at the famous Bristol Motor Speedway next year in 2025. Be giving my thoughts on that, talking about it. But before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please hit the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so we'll be going into our third segment here, which is going to be talking about, as I said, MLB's plans to have a game at the famous Bristol Motor Speedway, which of course has NASCAR races. And yeah, so this was announced yesterday as a little bit of insider information from Evan Drellick, one of the bigger athletic guys. He kind of covers the business side of baseball. He was big into the Astros cheating scandal, is big into CBA kind of things. So this is kind of down his lane if you want to follow for those kind of things. He's a great follower and knows all what he's talking about. But it was announced, and I thought this was a really interesting game. Now, they of course have had these kind of specialized games in baseball over the past few years. Of course, they've had the Field of Dreams games. Of course, they've had the Field of Dreams game. They had a game at a old Negro Leagues field a few days after Willie Mays died. Obviously, coincidence there, but Obviously, the sentiment was really nice considering what happened. And now they are going to be having a game at the Bristol Motor Speedway, which is, of course, a very famous NASCAR racetrack. I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy, so I don't really know too much about it. But I thought it was a really cool idea, and I like what MLB has done these past few years doing these kind of specialized games. Doing it again in the Bristol Motor Speedway, doing it in the Field of Dreams game, doing it in the old Negro League Stadium. I liked it for a few reasons. First of all, it grows the game. People are going to see this idea. They're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. And they're going to want to watch. And maybe they fall in love with one of the teams. Maybe they become a baseball fan. Sorry. So I've always liked these games. I think that it's always a really good way to be able to grow the game, be able to build the fan base, and just get new things. Make baseball a lot more exciting. People complain that baseball isn't as exciting as it once was, which I get. I don't really agree, but I get it. So having these games where, baseball's kind of in the background, but it's also these kind of spectacles where you're focusing on the stadium and these kind of things, I always think is really, really cool, and I always enjoy it. I think that this is a fantastic decision by MLB, and I like the location as well. It's a very famous place, obviously. They have had other sports events there as well. They had a college football game there a few years ago, and it looks really cool because obviously you have the racetrack, and then you kind of have the center part of it where you go to get your oil change, stuff like that. Again, I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy, so I don't really know like the full layout, but then you have the stands kind of separated, so it looked really cool, and the way they were able to lay it out, I'm sure will be very similar to MLB's way. So I think the game there could be a really cool looking thing, and I think it will be something that would really be exciting. They are going to be having the Reds and Braves there play as well. I think those are two really good teams to choose. Both are pretty solid teams as well, and also are kind of in the same area where it is. It's in the South, North Carolina, so having two teams that are both in the South or in that vicinity, I think is a really good choice. And also, both have very good fan bases. Both the Reds and the Braves have fantastic fan bases. I've been to multiple Braves and Reds games in Cincinnati and Atlanta. Fan bases always show up. Stadiums are beautiful, and again, I think the fan bases would travel. And again, it's just something to get people talking about baseball. When you had the Field of Dreams game, that was something that got people talking about baseball. And it's always something that I think is really, really cool within the game, and something that I think they should explore more. So I think this is a fantastic job by MLB to be able to do that, and I think that it was just a great, great decision by them to be able to, again, to have fun with the game, to have these kind of decisions, to grow the game, get people talking about it, and that's always a really good decision in my opinion, and always really good things that MLB does here. Now, when we're talking about these kind of specialized games, I would say I always want to talk about some other places I think would be a great time to have a game. First of all, the place I always think about is the old Negro League Stadium in Paterson, New Jersey. Of course, growing up in the tri-state area, I've known about the stadium for a little while now, and it's always been something that's been talked about. I believe Harold Reynolds of MLB Network has been someone that has been pushing for this game to happen there in Paterson for a long time. And I would agree. I've seen the stadium as well. It's really good looking. It's in pretty good shape for a stadium that's been around for almost 100 years. So I think it would be a great time to have a game there, especially now with Negro Leagues players slowly passing away. Unfortunately, we saw it with Willie Mays. People's knowledge of the Negro Leagues is at an all-time high with that game, with Willie Mays, all that kind of stuff. So I think it will be a really, really cool time and a really good game to be able to do. I think it would be just a fantastic thing. It's called Hinchcliffe Stadium, by the way, in case you don't know and you want to look it up. I think having a game there would be a fantastic decision, and I think it will be something that gets the community together. I think a Mets versus Yankees game there would be fantastic. Believe me, I do everything in my power to go there. So these kind of spectacles and games are just really, really fun things to be able to see within baseball and be able to talk about. Again, just anything that makes baseball being talked about in the national media is something that I'm always a fan of. As a baseball fan, I always want the game to be grown, and I think these things would be really, really good. Also, I think potentially having a remake of the Polo Grounds would be really cool. You could build it for fans to come out, but also play a game there. That's something I thought of. It's kind of out of the box, but the Polo Grounds is such a legendary, interesting stadium. I think it would be really cool to kind of have a replica of it and have teams play there. I know some of the parts of the Polo Grounds were left somewhere in New York City. I've been there a few times. I've seen kind of the stairs of it, and it's not much there, but it still is really cool to kind of think about, who played there and the history there. So I think having something like that would be really cool. But again, just these kind of games, these kind of specialized stadiums and games where teams can play, I always think is a great decision by MLB. It grows the game. It gets people talking about baseball. It gets people, it gets baseball on people's minds, which is always a great thing. And I just think whenever you can have baseball be talked about as much as it has been, I think is a great decision. And yeah, I'd be very excited to watch this Bristol Motor Speedway game. I think it's a really good decision to have it be played here in such a historic place, a place where you've had other sporting events as well, so there's obviously history there. But not just that, going to Hinchcliffe Stadium, doing some other things as well, playing games in other old Negro League stadiums, I think would be a really nice thing, and something that would be really cool, and something that I would really enjoy as a baseball fan, and someone that loves the history of the game as well, I think would be really fun. Again, it kind of reminds me of the U.S. and Japanese games when baseball plays in the Japan Dome, when they go to Japan and play the MPB All-Stars, or the Cubs and Dodgers next year are going to play in the Dome over there in Japan. Just these kind of specialized games, you can see baseball in a new environment. American fans get to see something new, and I just always think it's really fun, and something that, again, is always something that kind of gets my excitement up. I mean, we saw it as well, the Mets and the Phillies doing the London game this year, which has happened a few times, going to playing a soccer stadium. So all these kind of things are always really exciting for baseball, and just get people talking about it. So that is it for our third segment here, going over the potential of a Bristol Motor Speedway game here in baseball. The Reds and Braves are potentially going to be playing there. We'll be moving into our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about Tyler Fitzgerald and his breakout season for the San Francisco Giants. So going over that, talking about it, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye. Nope, that's not right. There we go.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about Tyler Fitzgerald and his breakout season for the San Francisco Giants. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers. If you would like your question to be read on the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot. So again, thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so we'll be talking about one of the more underrated players in the game this year. Guy's been on a really fantastic streak that I don't see a lot of people talking about, which is Tyler Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was kind of a nobody prospect coming up in the Giants organization these past few years. Never really caught on with the Giants, was always up and down, was always kind of a 4A type player where he would do great in AAA, but would struggle in the major leagues. Was always a big, important depth piece for this Giants team, and is continuing to be that, but now is getting a full-time look as the Giants starting shortstop and also in the outfield as well, and he's run with it. He's currently hit, let's get this straight now, 11 home runs in 17 games since the All-Star break, which is pretty insane, pretty incredible, and he's just done a fantastic job with this Giants team. So I want to go over him, go over his stats, go over how good I think he is, and yeah, all that. So looking at Fitzgerald right now, he currently has a weighted runs created plus of 185, which is obviously pretty insane. He's also played in 52 games this year in the major leagues, 145 at-bats, 158 plate appearances. So nice like again, this is such a short sample size. I mean, 50 games isn't the biggest thing, but it's also in the category where you're saying, is this for real now? Is he as good as good as he's performing. Obviously, he's not. I mean, he's not going to hold a 185 weighted runs created plus for the rest of the season or even next year, but he's still having a really good season, and I want to talk about him. So, currently, when you look at his stats, you look at his barrel percentage, it is up significantly from last year. Last year was at 4.5%. This year is at 12.2%. His max exit velocity this year is 107.3, which is also great. Hard hit percentage is up 10%. And his weighted on base percentage is also up 63% as well, under 63% as well. So obviously he's doing really good with the numbers part of it. He's hitting the ball really hard. Line drive percentage is up to 28.9%. He's hitting less ground balls as well, pulling the ball a lot more, pulling at 56.1%. So obviously his hard hit percentage is also up from 30% to 33%. So obviously doing really, really well, and it has the numbers to back it up. So I don't think Fitzgerald, again, is going to continue to be this type of fantastic player, but I think he's a very solid player that is finally breaking out and finally getting a chance to start every day on this good Giants team, and is finally doing a really good job. So I like what he's doing, and I think that Fitzgerald can be a really solid player for the Giants team. You know, one of their biggest needs the last few years has been a shortstop, and Fitzgerald has proven that he can be a high-level shortstop at this major league level. He can play defense well. He can obviously hit well now. So I think that he's really staking a claim to be part of the Giants' future and get a starting spot for the 2025 Giants, which is really going to be more important than this 2024 team. Now, he also has versatility as well. He has played the outfield in his career also, and second base. He's played second base a good amount, third base as well, shortstop, left field, center field, right field. So he also first base as well. So he has versatility. I think he really is a super utility kind of player, and you can move him around a lot. So he also brings a lot of value there. So I think the worst person Fitzgerald could be for the Giants team is a high-level bench bat, but the way he's hitting right now, the way he's performing, I don't see why you wouldn't try him as an everyday player with how well he's doing. It's really been absolutely fantastic, and it is going to be something that I'm following for the rest of the year. He's having just great stats for the Giants. Now, again, the shortstop position has been something that's been really interesting with this Giants team these past few years. I thought Marco Luciano would be the starting shortstop for this Giants team this year, but they don't really seem to think he's a shortstop long term. They've been playing him at DH a lot, which was one of the reasons I guess you traded Jorge Soler. But still, I hated that Soler move. I've talked about that many times on the channel. Just look up Giants after the trade deadline. I'm sure I've talked about it. So with Fitzgerald, I think he's really staking a claim for the future because the Giants don't really have a shortstop for the long term. And if Fitzgerald keeps playing like this, I mean, man, he could really, really become a fantastic player for the Giants team. Now, again, I think his future with the Giants really determines, what position is he going to play, what players come up and, end up becoming long-term pieces at what position, all that kind of stuff. So if I'm Fitzgerald, I'm really hoping that I can be your everyday shortstop because I think that's where he feels more comfortable. But again, if you need him in center field, he can play there. Left field, right field, even first, second, third, really every single place on the diamond, I think. He has the chance to go from high-quality bench bat where he can play all around to a good starting caliber player. Now, looking at the future of the Giants team, I think that they have a lot of good players for this core. It's just a lot of them are old and a lot of them are on bad contracts that you kind of have to move on from. Getting these guys like a Tyler Fitzgerald, who's young, who's playing well, like a Marco Luciano, who's young and playing well, Patrick Bailey, Heliot Ramos. I think that's a really solid core you're building out there with these young players. You have these guys in Patrick Bailey, Ramos, you have Fitzgerald, you have Luciano. But you also have these other older players like Matt Chapman, like Lamont Wade, Wilmer Flores, Mike Yastrzemski, Mike Conforto, who are solid, just aren't huge pieces of your future for this Giants team. You have those guys as well. Looking at your farm system also, you have some other guys coming up like Bryce Eldridge, who I think can be up maybe at the end part of next year. Again, Luciano, who I think is going to be a really good player in the future. I would keep him at shortstop, but I guess you want to put him at DH, be my guest. But you have those four guys, and you have a ton of money coming off the books next year. Giants have always not been afraid to spend money. Apparently, a lot of people don't like coming to the Bay Area, but they got Soler to come there. They got Matt Chapman to come there. They got Blake Snell to come there. So I think that maybe those concerns of players coming to the Bay Area because of what they heard about it is a little bit overblown, because you can get some of the biggest free agents on the market last year coming there as well. So, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what is going to be happening with this Giants team in the future, and also for this year as well. Obviously, they didn't sell at the deadline. They bought getting Mark Canha, but they also traded away Jorge Soler. So I don't know what they were doing. Again, I hated their deadline. I've talked about it many times. Can't get into it because I'm going to go into a full-on rant. But, I mean, right now they're only 4.5 games out of the wild card. They're below the Pirates, the Cardinals, the Mets, and the Braves for getting the third wild card spot. They are also in the division where the Diamondbacks and Padres are, of course, the two top wild card seeds currently. So they would have to go over them as well. So it's going to be a really interesting end to the rest of the year with this Giants team. But look, Heliot Ramos is playing great. Fitzgerald's playing great. Luciano's playing great. You also, of course, have Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade. Conforto's been doing much better as well recently. You have, as Farhan Zaidi said it, the best rotation in baseball. I don't know if I would agree technically, but I think the rotation is really good. So it's going to be interesting for me, at least, to see how this Giants rotation is going to be performing for the rest of the year and how much it is going to propel them for their chance to get into the playoffs. I mean, you have Blake Snell, you have Logan Webb. That's already a great start to that rotation. But then you also have, of course, Robbie Ray getting in there. You have Hayden Birdsong, Kyle Harrison. I'm not sure if Jordan Hicks is going to be a starter for the rest of the year as well, but you have him there as well. So you have a lot of great starting pitchers in their rotation, a lot of great players to build around. And again, I don't really know if it's the best rotation in baseball, but it's pretty good. And they have a lot of great pieces, filtering in and out of that rotation. The offense is doing a lot better. And now with how well Fitzgerald has been doing as a big part of that offense, I think that it is going to be really interesting to determine, where this Giants team is going to be at the end of the year, how they are going to perform, and just how overall they are going to end up playing as a team and as a collective unit with, how all these players are coming up and performing. So, very interesting team to watch the rest of the year. I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Giants fan as well. Very interested in seeing how my team does for the rest of the year. I think there are a lot of interesting situations that my team could put themselves in, and it's really going to be interesting. So that is it for my fourth segment here, going over the San Francisco Giants and also Tyler Fitzgerald, his breakout season for them, going over it. Moving into our fifth and final segment here for today, which is going to be talking about some news around the league, going over some other news that I thought was interesting, kind of minor transaction, injury-related stuff that I want to talk about, but I didn't think was good enough for a full segment, so I'll be kind of bunching it all into one segment here. So I'll be doing that, and we'll see you after the fourth and final break here on today's show. So thanks, and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fifth and final segment for today. We're just going to be talking about some news around the league, some other stuff that I did want to talk about that's going on in baseball that is significant, but I don't think is significant enough for me to talk about in a full segment. But I did want to still get my thoughts on it, so I'll be going over that. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. To get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read on the air, please hit the link, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today for our fifth and final segment. So, going to be talking about some news around the league, so let's get into it, starting off with two Dodger stories. First of all, top Dodgers prospect Dalton Rushing, who has been a catcher throughout his entire minor league career, is now apparently transitioning to be a left fielder fully. He was just called up from AA to AAA Oklahoma City with the Dodgers, and I think he could be up by the end of this year. I think it's maybe a reach, but I also think he could be on the starting roster for next year at the Dodgers. Now, I never thought he would be a catcher long term. I thought he could have played the position maybe 2 to 3 years in the MLB, but I also didn't think he was a horrible defensive catcher that, maybe could have stayed there. But I think this just makes a lot of sense right now with where the Dodgers are at. They have their long-term catcher locked up with Will Smith on a 10-year contract. He's not going anywhere. And the Dodgers are really hurt with offensive help from the outfield there. I mean, you've had what you thought would be your franchise center fielder in James Outman go down to AAA and really not be a factor for your future anymore. You've had Mookie Betts get hurt. So I think offensive production has been something that has been a problem from your outfield for a little while now. And I think you may look at it as a problem in the future as well. So preparing Dalton Rushing to move to a position that is of more need in the future when your catcher position is pretty much taken for the next decade plus, I think makes a lot of sense. I think he could still potentially be kind of a spot catcher whenever Will Smith needs a day off, maybe instead of carrying a traditional backup catcher like you have done for a long time with Austin Barnes. Maybe you have Dalton Rushing be your starting left fielder, and then whenever Will Smith needs a day off, every 2 or 3 days, you have him play catcher, and then you have someone come off the bench play left field, or have your DH, whatever that is, go to left field and have Will Smith play DH and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it could be really interesting. And Sam Raj in the comments here, he says he has a question, so go ahead, feel free to ask. I will try my best to answer it. Next, we also have the next Dodgers news. Brusdar Graterol is out for the year with an injury. Just came back from being off the injured list the entire year, and now is out for the rest of the year after a really freak play on the mound where he kind of bumped into someone. And man, it's just really unfortunate for him. Really was supposed to be a big part of this Dodgers bullpen, and the fact now that he is going to be out for the rest of the year really is unfortunate, and really is something that I think is sad. He seems like a really great guy, has been a really great guy for his entire career, and was supposed to be a big part of this Dodgers bullpen, has some of the most electrifying stuff in baseball. And Sam Raj in the comments asks here, what team should I support? I am new to baseball. I think it's up to you. I think maybe you do some research on teams. Maybe there's some players you like. I'm not sure where you're from. I always suggest rooting for the team that's closest to you. I'm not sure if you're from America or not, or the States or Canada or something like that. So I always suggest rooting for a team close to you. But if there isn't a team close to you, I just say whatever team you like. I mean, you can choose whatever, you like players, you like uniforms, whatever you kind of like. Just do some research, and I say really just make the decision. But always new fans of baseball are always great. So really whatever you want to do, I think is okay with me. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Rays reinstating Drew Rasmussen off the injured list. Of course, been out for the entire year with Tommy John surgery, and now is back and is going to be a big part of this Rays rotation, not just for this year, but for next year as well. The Rays traded a lot of people, but they're also getting a lot of people back from injury. You just got back Jeffrey Springs. You just got back Drew Rasmussen. Shane McClanahan is going to be back sometime, I would say, next year. So, as much as you did trade Zach Eflin, you traded some other starting pitchers as well, you're still going to have on the roster next year. You're going to have, for your starting rotation, you're going to have Rasmussen, Springs, Taj Bradley, Shane Baz. You're going to be having Zach Littell. You're going to be having some other guys whose names I'm blanking on as well. So you have a lot of good starting pitchers on this rotation as well, even after trading so many guys. So the Rays' depth is really one of the big reasons why they have been such a fantastic team going for the last few years, and I don't think it's really stopping. Ryan Pepio as well. Tyler Alexander, not sure if he's going to be there next year, but him as well. So still have a ton of great starting pitchers for this Rays team, and it's going to be very, very interesting to be able to see how they are going to perform next year and in the future as well, even after blowing this team up at the deadline. Albert Alzolay is undergoing Tommy John surgery for the Chicago Cubs. Pretty unfortunate here. Alzolay was the closer for the Cubs last year, was up and down with injuries all year, and now it's official that he is going to have Tommy John. He's, of course, going to miss all of this year, considering there's like a month left in the regular season and the Cubs aren't making the playoffs. They're going to be missing all of next year and then probably some into 2026. Not far, I think, but at least some part of it. So that is unfortunate. Looked to be a promising bullpen arm after he kind of flamed out at the rotation at the start of his career. So obviously unfortunate for him. I thought was going to be a big part of the Cubs' future bullpen. But hey, is what it is, right? What are you going to do? So really hope he gets back really soon. Always seemed like a really good guy. Very active on social media. Is really good with the Cubs fans. So hope he gets back soon and hope he is better than ever. Next Cubs news, we also have them signing former Mets starting pitcher Adrian Houser. Houser, of course, came over in a trade with the Brewers to the Mets in the offseason, slotted in as the Mets 5-starter, made 6 or 7 starts with them, and was absolutely awful. Was one of the worst starting pitchers I've watched for the Mets in a long time, and that's saying something. But the Mets moved him back to the bullpen in a long relief kind of role, and he had a good amount of success there. They did have to end up DFAing him after they did add so many bullpen arms at the deadline, so kind of a roster crunch. But I did think they would be able to trade him, so it was kind of a surprise when they just let him go. I always thought there was going to be an active market for him, and I think signing with the Cubs makes a lot of sense. He can provide bullpen depth and also rotation depth, really whatever they really need for them. So I think Houser still provides a very good role for whatever team. So it's going to be really interesting for me to watch what he does with this Cubs team and see how he does perform in the future. I think he still has a lot of talent. It's just about getting the role right for him and getting his stuff right. Next, we have another former Met. The Baltimore Orioles are signing J.D. Davis after he was released by the Yankees. Obviously has played with the A's and Yankees this year. He was traded from the Giants in the preseason to the A's. Didn't do great there. Signed with the Yankees as kind of a bench bat type and didn't do great there. Now signing with the Orioles. Orioles obviously feel they don't have enough right-handed bats because they traded for Eloy Jimenez and Austin Slater at the deadline, 2 lefty killers, and then also signed J.D. Davis, a guy who has killed lefties in the past. Obviously hasn't done that as great this year, but still has the pedigree of doing that. So Orioles obviously feel like they need more right-handed batters, and I think signing J.D. Davis is fine. I think he's a fine player. I don't think there's anything more than that. I don't think he'll be on this team's playoff roster, but he's a good bench bat. He's a good fill-in guy whenever someone needs a day off, and that's really it. He's a good veteran bat, again, that knows what he's doing. He's just a good, solid player, and I think we'll be really interested to see what is going to happen with him and his future and what his role is on this Orioles team. So I think it's a nice, fine, solid signing here by this Orioles team. The Twins are signing reliever Giovanni Gallegos to a minor league contract. I like this move a lot here. Gallegos was one of the premier middle relief pitchers in the league for a little while after coming over in a trade from the Yankees to the Cardinals. Was really good with the Cardinals for a little while, but after signing a 2-year extension with the Cardinals and with a roster crunch not doing that great this year, he did end up being DFA'd by the Cardinals, and I thought would get a lot of attention on the free agent market for a minor league contract, and that's exactly what happened here. Twins have had a lot of bullpen injuries this year, and I think signing Gallegos to a contract makes a lot of sense for them, and a lot of sense for Gallegos. He goes to another good team, and the Twins, who have been really good for a little while, and also gets a chance to also be a big part of their bullpen as well. I really like this move, and I think that Gallegos could be a genuine difference maker for this bullpen once he gets healthy and back to his ways, and I'm very interested to see what is going to happen with Gallegos and how he's going to perform here. Luis Rengifo and Chase Silsleff are out for the rest of the year for the Angels. 2 of their better younger players. There's a lot of rumors surrounding Rengifo. I guess that's probably one of the reasons why he wasn't traded at the deadline, because of this injury. But both are going to be back next year for this Angels team, and if they ever want to be good, these 2 are a big part of their young core, especially Rengifo, who's become a really good second baseman for this Angels team. Doesn't play great defense, but hits the ball really well. Is a switch hitter. Has some versatility around the infield as well. Was connected to the Yankees mainly. I thought wouldn't be a great fit just because of the defense, but I think Rengifo is a pretty solid player, and I think could end up being a big part of the Angels' future core here. And getting back next year, I think will be big time for him. If the Angels, again, ever want to be competitive, again, they need Chase Silsleff and Rengifo to be healthy and become big parts of their future team. Wilmer Flores is out for the year for the Giants with a knee injury. Not a surprise, been dealing with this all year and is now out for the year officially. Hasn't been that great this year, so again, you're not losing that much, and you also added some depth as well at the deadline, so it's not a huge deal, but again, he's been a very solid player for the Giants for the past few years, so is unfortunate a little bit there, but again, not too bad. And finally, the news I wanted to end off with here was Billy Beane passing away at the age of 60 yesterday. Not the Moneyball Billy Beane. I know a lot of people are going to think that, but Billy Beane was one of the first openly gay baseball players, and was MLB's big-time diversity inclusion kind of guy with minority players and LGBTQ plus players. So obviously was a legend within baseball. Did a lot of great things, made people feel welcome within the game, and he will be missed. A great man and a great guy within baseball. So passed away from cancer, unfortunately, which obviously is very, very sad. So I want to end off with that. RIP to the legend Billy Beane. Was a really solid player within the game, but what he did off the field as well, from minority players and just diversity and inclusion for baseball within all players from walks of life, was really, really great, and is going to be missed, and did a lot within the game of baseball for a lot of people, and did a really great job. So that is it for my show today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, to the notification bell to not only get notified when I upload, but all the other great content creators on this channel do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm your host, Sam Menzie. We'll see you at Baseball Throws Us tomorrow. And thanks, guys. See you then. Thanks, and bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't